Uh, my introduction to rap, the first time I remember hearing rap, I was probably like 5, 6, or 7, watching video hits. The only way that hip hop was commercial would be played on TV. It was rarely played on radio. And then unless you bought the CD, you wouldn't, you really had to look for artists. It wasn't really as easily accessed as it is today. So it was people that I remember first, like MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, and Naughty by Nature. They're probably my earliest memories of hip hop. From then, I had a friend that had CDs, and I used to copy them, and he had stuff like NWA, which got me into like Eazy-E and Ice Cube, and they were some of my favorite rappers when I was a kid. Um, then I remember hearing like Cypress Hill for the first time, probably around about 10 songs like Hits from the Bong, and seeing my mate's older brother with Weed, probably the first time I ever seen Weed. So now I'm making the connection between what I'm hearing and this, and seeing older kids listening to it, and not having like a father figure there. Uh, so this is the older influence that I'm seeing, whether it was right or wrong. I was uh, intrigued by it, and so I started to dig deeper into hip hop. When I moved to Blacktown, my best friend at the time, his older cousins and stuff uh, they were actually bank robbers, and some of them were involved in, the street life a bit heavily, and they were listening to things like artists such as Ice Cube, etc. So that's where I started to see the um, the connection between what was being said and the actual street life, such to say, which was different to the Australian street life was different to the American street life, but I think it had a heavy influence on me for whatever reason. And these guys were, I was 10 years old, and these guys were wearing, Nautica and all these brands, and these are like very expensive brands at the time, not as mainstream or as popular as they are now. And these guys were like what you'd call searching, and they'd have like the lad talk, which based from jail, and this was my earliest memories of rap and making a connection with what I was hearing and what I was seeing, even though it wasn't 100% like detailed, like what was going on over here, but there was a slight connection, with some of the elements and some of the topics that were being talked about. And this was the guys that were doing all this bad shit that we looked up to. These were the guys that they looked up to. So it's sort of like, I was really heavily interested in rap, and I never really, at the time, I could have never imagined that I would have rapped ever, because besides Vanilla Ice, you never seen a white rapper. Like Eminem didn't blow up till like I was at the end of high school, sort of thing. So, and I wasn't heavily into him, but he was at least a model of that you can be white and rap, even though I wasn't like a massive fan of his. I respect him, but so I probably started. So for going from being a big fan of it, spending years just, you know, smoking weed, listening to music, and I was a big fan of rap, hip hop. Um, it wasn't until I was 17 that one day I decided to write a rap, and I took a Method Man rap, and I took his structure and I just changed the words. And from there, that was the first time I remember writing a rap. And from then it was just on. And at the time, I didn't, there was such a distance between what these American rappers were talking about and what we were experiencing as Australians, even though we had a different story to tell. And I didn't see any of that get told. Like, I never seen a rapper from West Sydney tell about West Sydney or where we're from. And because there's a big mix of cultures, a lot of, ethnic diversity, and there's a lot of issues within that, you know what I mean? Um, so I started writing about the shit I was seeing and the shit that was going on around me, and I just kept writing and kept writing, and then I started. I guess it was, I could apply myself to that, and I could put time into that, like all hours of the day, and I didn't consider it work. So I was always writing, and then I got into freestyling, And I didn't know any rappers at the time from the area. There was one person I knew that rapped, and that was Losty. He was a bit older, and he'd done a few, he'd done a few performances here and there, and he was doing his thing. But he was the only rapper I knew at the time. Like,
Yeah. So I was known as like the rapper in the area. I was in bands, and I was also doing rapping at raves and clubs and stuff. And I loved hip hop, obviously. And so a friend of mine said to me, like a mutual friend we had, said, Ford started rapping, and he wants to hit you up. And I was like, yeah, hit me up. And he come around, and I got to say, like, I gave him a lot of tough love at first, like, because obviously, I wanted him to get better, and I knew that he wouldn't get better if I was just a yes man to him. So I was like, man, this is shit. You gotta, learn your stuff better. You gotta come back. You gotta, and one thing I really, and he did all that every time. And one thing I said to him as well is like, I got to teach you to freestyle better. I think he could freestyle a little bit when I first met him, but I said this is a really important tool. So we'd sit there and we'd do what I called the Rap Olympics. So I could make this game up where I'd throw in words and he'd throw me words and we'd have to put it in the rap as we went along. And we practice and practice and practice. So so that's how we started out. But he got to a point as well where he said to me, I'm only going to get better if we get some more instrumentals, and I agreed. This shows how long ago this was. He had dial-up internet. I didn't even have internet at my house. So I said, look, if you're willing to go get the instrumentals and download them, like, by all means, get them and bring them back. So he did. And he'd sit up all night getting all these instrumentals, like really slowly, like one by one, and he came back with it. I wouldn't say I introduced him. He already was kind of rapping, but he came to me because we were the only people rapping in the whole area. Like, it wasn't like it is now where every second person raps. Like, there was literally me and him, and that was it in the whole of Prospect. And no one made beats, so that's why we had to get these instrumentals. We were rapping over Dr. Dre and DJ Premier, and he already rapped, he already had it in him. But when he came to me in my house, and to do stuff with me, it was to share with me the experience that is being part of hip hop, but also to learn what I'd learned already and to grow. And man, it started out where I was teaching him, but within a couple of years, he was teaching me stuff. So
I didn't really know what Aussie hip hop was, because unless you went searching for it, it wasn't in your face, I think like some of the first Aussie rappers I heard were like Brad Strutt and stuff, but I was never really a fan of it, because it was just, they were talking about what they were talking about. And where I came up from, West Sydney, there was a lot of shit going on. See, I started at 17, so by the time I was 21, I'd seen a lot of shit, and like none of this had been documented. So I was, whether right or wrong, like I try and tell both sides. But so I had my angle, and I believe if someone before me had done it to a level where I thought I couldn't do it better, I wouldn't have started rap. But there was none, so I found my lane, and then I went for it. So Losty actually took me to a studio in Katoomba, and I met this guy Tuloco, and he was a bit older as well, and he was a graffiti writer and also a rapper. And I remember bumping into him in the streets of Sydney, and he'd have like a backpack full of CDs, and he was hustling and shit like that, rolling around with all these islanders and stuff like that. So he was caught up in the street life to a certain extent, hanging around Blacktown and Mount Druitt and that. So we knew of each other, and then we met through Losty.
So how did you meet Fortay?
Okay, how did we meet? I met him through Losty. We all hooked up because Losty was also a graffiti writer. He was doing a lot of murals then, and I met up with him. We got along well. He had an interest in music, and so did I. And he had a friend. He told me that, he's into his hip hop. He likes to freestyle and all that, and that was Fortay. So pretty much we all hooked up, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, one morning, I met up with Losty and Fortay in Penrith, and we made our way to one of Losty's mates' house up at the mountains, Springwood Katoomba ways. and he had a studio set up there, and that's pretty much the first time Fortay recorded. I had experience recording, but not on such a professional level, more on like a real ghetto level. But but for Fortay, that was the first time he got on the microphone, got to hear his voice, and that's pretty much where it all started, man, back in the year 2000.
Then Losty, along the way, I used to go to Losty's house and we'd put on instrumentals and we'd rap and we just freestyle because he was really more advanced at freestyle than myself. I'd never really done it. He's like, look, if you want to be a good rapper, you got to be able to freestyle. So I started off just like whatever, and then started developing, and I actually started to pick up pretty quick. And freestyle was actually one of my strengths at the time. So he was hosting this show at Greenwood, which was like an open mic / battle night. And I went down there and I think the first 3 or 4 weeks that it was on, I went down there and I won every night in the battles against like 16, 20 other rappers or something. And this was back in the days where you didn't know who you were battling. You were getting up there and you were just, whoever you had, they would just pull it out and it was on the crowd, So I didn't enjoy being on stage. Like I was sort of shy at first, but I knew that's what I had to do. If I wanted to rap in front of 1,000 people one day, I had to start off by rapping in front of 150. And so it was just practice really. I just got in where I could. Open mics and battles were my only opportunities to rap. I hadn't had any songs really recorded. I was just rapping to other people's instrumentals. So I started working on a mixtape, and I worked on 2148 mixtape volume 1. And through the Greenwood battles, I met people such as Redback and Defiant. And I remember like meeting them and being like, hey, where you from? And they're like, out west. And because there was so many people, some were from the city, some very few were from out west. So when you're seeing someone from out west, you sort of, oh, you from west? Oh, yeah, man. Like, you want to smoke some weed? Yeah, sweet, blah, blah, blah. So we sort of like gelled.
I met Forts back in the early 2000s. I was working in Chatswood around that time, and I found that online there was some MC battles and hip hop events happening around North Sydney, so it wasn't too far from where I was working. So every Wednesday night, if my shifts lined up, I'd go to North Sydney and check it out and enter battles and shit. And that's I was hosted by, I didn't know who he was then, but it was Losty. I met a lot of rappers there. A lot of the scene was weird because nights it was a good event. New Funk, it was called, and I don't know. Forts I think was by the time I was hanging out there, he had already won about 3 or 4 weeks in a row. He was like reigning champ,
Freestyle battle?
Freestyle battles, yeah. It wasn't like now that people have time and prepare it and you got it written and it's a different format. But back then it was like you didn't know who you were battling. You just put your name on a sheet there. They paired you up with someone and they'd call you out. And yeah, before you know it, you're up there battling and you don't know what you're saying until the last second, basically. And I saw Forts there. He stood out from the other people there. I don't know how we began talking. I don't know. I think a few times Def used to come with me for those events. Wednesday nights used to meet me there or whatever with the boys. And then after that, Fort's like, what up? And then we spoke, and then it's like, you smoke? It's like, yeah, you smoke. Yeah, sweet. And then we went outside and had a smoke, and then it's like, fuck, you're from Blacktown, I'm from Fairfield.
So back in the days, I was rolling with Redback through the battle scene, and they used to have these battle comps going on up at the North Shore. It was called the New Funk Battles, and so one, I think it was the Wednesdays or Thursdays or something like that. Rock up, and we had MC Losty. He was hosting the night, and he called up Fortay versus Redback. So they're up on stage, and all G'd up, you know what I mean, seeing my cousin battle and shit, so it's all good. And MC Losty's like, all right, this round we're doing topic battle. The topic is we gotta diss each other's mums. It was like, oh shit, all right, cool. So they flipped the coin, bang, all right, Fortay, you're first. And then Fortay is rapping, going da-da-da, fuck your mom, this and that, like full going hard on red. And then it was the response. And so rather than dissing the mothers, Red decides to flip the script and decides to give props to the mum instead. So he starts off like something like da da da, it's Red back, motherfuckers. I'm not gonna diss your mum. I'm gonna give love to the mothers, and the crowd just went yeah, da da da, you know. So yeah, they battled, and I can't remember who won. Maybe it was all good. It was all handshakes and da 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 after that, and then yeah. So met Forte, we went to the courtyard, have a chat, bit of a ta-ta, you know, and it was cool, you know. So it was met Fort. He was one of the boys from the area, from Blacktown, and things. I was growing up in Guildford at the time, and so yeah, that was the beginning.
The kind of memories I have is there were a couple of big turning points with Ford's career that I saw just from being around him since day one. Was we're at the Greenwood Hotel when I used to be hosting a battle night there. This was probably like 2003, and Ford went in and he started battling every week, and eventually he got to the top where he was like, you know, like the grand champion of battling, and he was like kind of undefeated for like a good couple of weeks there. I'd say about 9 or 10 weeks all up. And he really got his confidence up, he really got his skills up, and he really showed everybody, you know, what he was made of, especially in the live aspect, because it's, you know, it's one thing to record records, but it's another thing to be dope live and to be dope freestyling.
The battle scene, it wasn't like it was today. It was all off the top of the dome. There was no of these pre-written shit. There was none of this shit. You had to rock up on the spot. You didn't know who you were battling. Your name gets pulled out of a hat. Whoever matches who has to battle who. There's no pre-writtens. You don't know who you're battling. It's all off the top of the dome. It's all freestyle, which half of these twerps don't know what it is today to actually freestyle battle.
He recorded his first mixtape at my house. I was still learning how to record. It was still very experimental, very amateur. But we did all right. We hooked up the mic there and did his first mixtape, and a few characters came through as well and recorded. Spoke, and then it's like, you smoke? It's like, yeah, you smoke? Yeah, sweet. And then we went outside and had a smoke, and it's like, fuck, you're from Blacktown, I'm from Fairfield. So yeah, just from that, it just sort of like, that was it. So we either kicked it there on Wednesdays, or we used to hang out at Prospect, or Forts used to come over. We used to play some of Pab's beats. Def he was still experimenting with his beats, but he still had decent beats back then. He recorded his first mixtape at my house. I was still learning how to record. It was still very experimental, very amateur. But we did all right. We hooked up the mic there and did his first mixtape, and a few characters came through as well and recorded. And the rest is history, man. It was good times. Yeah. So it was kind of like the beginning, because if you think about it in the long run, yeah, it was the early stages. We're still experimenting. We're still finding our voice and finding, you know, how to perfect it all. But so it was early in the beginning, and he's grown a lot since his first mixtape. So
yeah, I'm Torture. Used to be in a crew called, I was still Hijack and Torture. This is going back many years ago. Probably about 2003, I think we put out our first proper album. And yeah, I probably met Fort sometime around there. Yeah, so I was based down in Western Sydney, and I think we started, probably in the mid-90s we started doing shit, and the scene was pretty small at that time, but there was still pretty much every show you go to, you'd know all the faces there. And I remember by the time we got the first album out in just after the year 2001 or 2, I remember seeing Forts at the gigs, and we'd see him regularly, and you know, we were just always out west doing what we do, and the crowd back then was, oh man, we used to be fucking consistently rowdy. I remember there used to always be, you know, we used to come there for a good time, and people used to come there to drink, and sometimes a lot of shows out here used to get shut down. There used to always be stupid activities taking place, you know, but we always had fun. So, no, we had a great time back then, and yeah, most people knew each other from the scene back then, before it got started expanding in the Sydney area anyway. So basically, yeah, I remember the first time I met Forts. We were in the city, we were doing a show, and I think it was a self-titled and apathy show. And yeah, I remember we had a bit of a beef with one of Forts' mates. So it was a bit weird whether something's going to happen tonight or whether it was or wasn't. But we were there to do our show. I remember we did the set, and that's the first time I would have bumped into Forts. And I remember him being a little bit rowdy back in those days. He would have been definitely drinking something, and had a conversation. And yeah, anyway, from that day, sort of, you know, we sort of clicked and started, you know, doing shit together and collabing every now and again. But I remember the first, I think Forts was doing his first mixtape, which was the 2148, the Blacktown mixtape. And yeah, he had a beat for us. I think it was the Nas beat, and went to Redbacks. Yeah, we did the recording at Redbacks.
So Defiant made beats, and Redback was a really good rapper. We used to just meet up and smoke weed, and Redback would freestyle for like ages, and he was very entertaining and very good, and made me sharpen myself as well, because he was a bit older too. And Defiant, he was a crazy rhymer, plus he made beats too. So I've got these guys that sort of made me, along the way, step my game up from Losty to like step my game up with freestyle, and to me and Red and Pabs, and they were already on a level, and then, you know what I mean? So I was just like, pushing myself, it pushed me along, you know. So I started, I got offered, after I released my mixtape, I got offered the opportunity to do a show at the Lansdowne. I think it was 2006, and that was my first show. So I took all the boys with me. It was me, Too Loco, Redback, Pabs, Defiant, sorry. Head Hubbard was there, he wasn't even a rapper at the time. Judge, Losty was there. And I just, like, my thing was always, even to today, like, if I do a show, I want all the boys to come with me. I'm not the one that just wants to be on stage by myself. Like, let's go and have fun. And if you like it as much as I like it, then we're all gonna have fun, you know? And like any activity, you know? So that was the start, and I got to...
Give him some love. What? Yo. What's up? West in here, I'm motherfucking high. Yeah. Oh. Westline.
Did you see? You see the motherfuckers? Oh, man. We're gonna start this shit off for Too Loco. This is This is our first show, you know? First of many we'll see. Let us know what you know.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yo, shit. Fortay.
Let's do it, right?
Fortay. Yeah.
Come on.
Killing spree.
Yeah.
Killing spree. Yeah.
What?
I'll fuck your life.
You ain't cops rushing to hell. Trust you, trust me,
I'm not trusting myself.
nothing but truth.
Got shit that's finally booth.
If I ain't crazy,
Just use the sentence of abuse.
four in the rings.
Kidnap all of your kids.
From the head to the bus.
What are you doing?
Keeping a mess. Abuse me,
Relieving the stress.
Hit your floor with your jaw
And the bleeding got left. Your wife was a slice.
Said I found life for a son. What's a blue in my shoe?
Running inside of a mum. Left it for dead.
Belly gag,
Down to the bed.
beating and bleeding before it got
And my head. Signature move. Now who's next on the loose?
anyone out there
With the head with the disc. Go with the cut. Make him go down in his mum.
dancing that Bob Hope
Was a shattered splash. Jane went to the fire.
at the cross.
Dressed up in black. In the city in a plane. Flying in that bag.
Hard to believe it's
Sitting there smoking some tree. When they get came up to me, asking the ring.
rolled in the J. I laced the F.
Sweating the joint beside die.
By the time I died,
Made my
I'm
point.
tired of phonies, but the fact
Dying slowly.
you get his name, but the kid was
Sign and Sony. And the instances.
Stop the chick and say you are watching. Some shoot none,
Rocks down the arms for sure. Fuck the cops.
Need a grin the
And the sliding.
headshots on the
Motherfucker Ken Maroney.
Joel Turner.
Don't make it happy to see. We like bandits. Now get a chat to the ring.
You pay a lot, see the hell, you speak your left a man, I must have been the best.
It's like who offers me the mess.
Fuck it.
Yeah, yeah. Fortay.
Yeah.
Professional studio.
Okay, well, the first show we did was at the Lansdowne Hotel. And that was a really big show because it was Fortay, Defiant, Redback, me, and then we had Losty and Judge as guest appearances. And that was the start of many shows that we did together. And our first shows did cause a lot of controversy because of our criminal lifestyle, of what we would represent and what would be what we rhyme about and the stories we'd be telling. That we had a lot of like bad elements come to our shows. Like we had a lot of graffiti writers, we had a lot of like ex-cons, we had drug dealers, criminals, thugs, all kinds of people, and that could relate to our music. And when you have a lot of people like that all in the one room and under the influence of alcohol, well, there's definitely going to be fights, there's going to be stabbings, there's going to be riots where the riot squad had to come. And there was no other group in Sydney or Australia that would cause such controversy with violence and stabbings and riots in their shows. And that's one thing that really scared a lot of promoters about hooking us up. But we had to speak to our people and we did our best to like control the situation. And I guess, yeah, man, we did a lot of shows and some way, somehow, there'll always be some sort of controversy with someone getting a black eye or a stab wound or something, man. So, yeah.
Well, by West, that they'll put on out at the Australian Hotel, was it at Majula?
Lucky Australian St. Mary's.
Yeah, Lucky Australian St. Mary's. It was it started off during the day, ended up going to the night. I don't think it went to the night, did it? They got shut down. It turned to an all-out brawl. Cunts getting fucking their heads caved in with metal ashtrays. Cunts going on within the car park with hammers and helicopters. It was literally the Wild Wild West. Cunts, oh yeah, oh fuck, this is the creme de la creme. This cunt, all right, fucking old.
Can we start again?
Yep. Oh, but before we get to the creme de la creme, right? But basically, what the hip hop scene was graffiti writers. Okay, yeah, this the city boys, which was us, cunts from mainline, this and that. Then you had the cunts from out west, all right, and that was basically the hip hop scene / rave scene, all right, because most of the cunts that dressed like this, not as good as me, but you know what I mean. Like they copy my style biters, and his dogs bite. But anyway, Machabini too, you see, Machabini and that. Anyway, back to what we were saying. All right, that was basically the core of the hip hop scene. So most graffiti writers are thugs. That was the majority of the scene. And when East meets West or Sydney meets West, it's not a pretty combo. Like it's guaranteed to be at least 3 or 4 punch ones, maybe 1 or 2 people getting stabbed. Just total anarchy. But because with people like me there, Fortay, people who are stalwarts or in the hip hop scene, who like have been around, have enough pull to not have it happen. We can, you know what I mean, just reach out to. He reaches out to his boys from the West. I reach out to the other boys from, you know, the city-ways boys, you know, just pull your head and you can't fuck up here. You know what I mean? You can't take the toilets because it comes back on us. It comes out of our paycheck.
So we after doing the mixtapes, I got offered to do a couple shows here and there. We started to bring like a rowdy crowd that sort of probably destroyed our future opportunities more than anything, because we were bringing graffiti writers and basically just your average fucking unemployed fucking cunt from the West, you know what I mean? Young cunt from the West. Some of them were employed, but they were still fucking hooligans too. Like, and everywhere we used to go, like I remember one show in St. Mary's, there's like 2 police coppers. I didn't even know there was 2 police choppers at the time. I thought there was only one, and riot squad and people getting tasered and people running around with samurai swords and hammers, and like there was a couple of wild incidents. So sort of the music we did, it wasn't helping us to progress because venues didn't want to fuck with us. Word was getting around that we were fucking. It wasn't particularly us most of the time. It was more when you make music for a certain soundtrack for a certain Aussie street music, you're gonna attract the Aussie fucking street cunts, and that's what I mean. Like most of them are troublemakers, and then the cunts that are really like fucking doing shit probably don't leave the house anyway. So we've got a good, but they're still listening to it. So the streets are listening, but the fact that they're coming to shows it's not helping us. You know what I mean? But that was the music we were making. So we couldn't go commercial. We couldn't do we're just doing us. Talking about where we're from, and that's just basically what happens. You get a bunch of cunts from the West, get 100 cunts from the West, and throw in a fucking 10 liters of alcohol, and it's probably going to be drama. So that's basically what happened to a lot of our shows. So it was sort of hard trying to do music where, you weren't getting the shows or you weren't getting the radio exposure. Our only exposure was mixtapes. So I was going hard on the mixtapes and putting out a lot of free music. I've done, I think, 9 mixtapes in total, and most of them have got 20 plus songs on them because at the time I was working with Defiant and we're just trying to get the album right. So we got this album down. It's probably about 2009, I'd say the album was done. Between 2006 and 2009, we were just doing tracks. Before we knew it, we had a shitload. I was going to shows and stuff like that, and I was sneaking backstage. Like I'd just go to a show and say, I'm getting backstage tonight, blah, 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 blah. And I'd just fucking hustle my way back. So I found myself hanging out with these artists like DJ Premier and Method Man and Redman and fucking Bone Thugs and Harmony and all sorts of shit. I was finding myself in all sorts of situations. So
like, fuck. I thought it was another promoter. I was like, who's this guy? Like, always with the artist. Didn't know who he was. Always backstage. No pass, no nothing. No credentials. I was like, I need to find out who this guy is. So by the 5th time, I pulled him out. I'll never forget. It was at the Fox Studios. I was like, yo, can I holler at you for a second? He was like, yeah. Pulled him out of the room with the artist. I said, man, sorry, I'm the promoter. But who are you? He goes, nah, I'm all right. I go, what do you mean you're all right? I go, well, man, I don't know who you are, and you're always backstage. I've seen you about 5 or 6 times. You're always with the artists. I just need to know. I know everyone backstage except who? Who are you? He goes, no, I'm okay. I go, bro, I'm the guy that says you're okay. I don't know who you are, and you're backstage. He's like, look, dude, I'm all right. And I'm like, I'm the guy that says if you're all right. Who the fuck are you? And he goes, listen, it's okay. I'm all right. I'm like, I was about to call security. If I could get this guy out of here. And before I do, he goes, look, I'm okay. I'm sweet. And he grabs my hand, he opens my hand and puts in big fucking bud. It was about that big. I was that fat. It was like the stinkiest weed I've ever smelled in my life, like Snoop weed. And I smelt it. And I looked at him, I was like, yeah, you're all right. And then from that day on, whenever I saw him, I told security, no, let him through. That's the plug. So that's my Fortay story, man. That's how I met him. That's pretty much it. Yeah. He was getting on my nerves, and then we ended up being friends. I just kept seeing him, man. He was always with the artist. I didn't know who the fuck he was.
Other memories was in an old band I was in. We opened for Redman and Method Man, and so Fort came along and did a track with us. And then before we knew it, Fort was getting us in the room backstage with Method Man, and we hung out with Method Man for 45 minutes, talking to him, chatting. It was a fucking amazing, crazy experience. It wouldn't have happened if Fort wasn't there, because Fort's got the magic of just, he's got the gift of the gab, he's got the hustle, and he's just fearless and relentless. So when he wants to meet somebody or get into a awesome situation where there's mad people around, he makes it happen.
Do you have any crazy story with Forte that comes happen during these shows?
One time I brought out a couple of artists named Dizzy Wright and Jaron Benton, and Forte was in the tour bus with us, and we just pulled up on William Street near King's Cross. That was the hotel. The guys were upstairs. They came downstairs, jumped in the van, and this crazy crackhead was walking past, and he must have seen, I don't know, African-American dudes or whatever. Anyway, he starts banging on the doors of the tour bus. Forte, without any hesitation, without anyone saying anything, got out of the car and knocked the dude clean out in front of the artist. Just knocked him out. Give him one hit a quitter. Got back in the van like it didn't even happen. And we were all like, what? And he was like, yeah. So he wasn't even security. He was just hanging out with us. But this dude decided to pick on the wrong van at the wrong time. He didn't know Forte was in the back. The artists were freaking out, man. They never seen shit like that. It was pretty cool.
I've been to a few shows with him, but I've been to a few shows where he hasn't even performed. We just went there fucked up. I remember him and Albert came pick me up and we went to the Rap City concert. It was Premiere, Edo G, Master Ace, and I think 2 other sets of people. I can't remember who it was, but they were all really, really drunk. Like I took a bottle of XO, we drank it straight out of the bottle. And then I remember Forte being backstage and no one else was around, but he heard something down the corridor, so he just got up and just launched a chair, bro. It would have flown about 30, 40 meters, bro. Just boom, straight across, bro. I was like, what the fuck, bro? This guy's lost his mind. And then at the end of the night, in the corridor, fucking Premiere was there, and Forte hooked him up with something. But then, like, Premiere was like, hey, you want my shirt? And he's like, nah, I want a beat. And so Premiere started doing a beat on the wall. And Forte started freestyling and shit, you know what I mean? It was a good time, bro. It was a good moment, man. Got to kick it with them boys. Show them how Sydney do.
Fucking Premier.
Yo, it's for my man, the craziest motherfucker in Sydney. I even forgot his name. Nigga came to my show, smoked us out, telling war stories. Sydney's finest right there. Turn around, put the camera on you so niggas know who it is.
Episode of Fortay all day.
You heard? You heard, nigga?
Beat nuts.
That's right. Junkyard style, baby. That's how we do it.
Cool Mega was in Sydney. If anybody doesn't know who Cool Mega is, do your homework. He's one of the biggest rappers out of Queens. Yeah, he came to Sydney to do a show, and he linked up with Fort, and Forte brought him over to my house, and we recorded the song that featured Cool Mega and Forte. I think it's out on his new album. It's online, and yeah, we got a mad studio session and done some filming of that as well. Yeah, it was cool, bro. Cool moment.
Yeah, I'm happy to get Cormega.
Bro, that's Fort, bro. You know, Fort is with Snoop, he's with Cormega, he's with fucking Immortal Technique playing Street Fighter like this.
And boss, you do that music, right?
Yeah. That's the only way I only give my cheese and down. That's the only way you can fucking win. Can we call homie?
Oh.
Call the boss?
Champion of the world.
That's 7 times. You know what I was dealing with. Swapping sides.